Warning. The language used on The Real Rush may be offensive to some viewers. Don't say I didn't fucking warn you.
Shut up and sit down.
What's happening, y'all? It's your boy Jade up here. Welcome to episode 88 of The Real Rush right here on YouTube. Thank you for joining us once again. Hope this episode is finding everybody safe and healthy, and if you're not safe and healthy, hopefully this episode is finding you on the road to recovery from whatever may ail you. I gotta be completely honest here with y'all. Due to recent events, recent frustrations, I didn't even really feel like doing this episode until just a couple hours ago. But I felt it was important to go ahead and press on and speak my mind on recent issues at some point. So we're going to tackle that a little bit later on in this episode, but before we get to that, I do have some positive news. I want to thank everybody who showed up, checked in, tuned in to Stagecoach Bandits, Stagecoach Theaters. Hold on, let me get this name again right. The Stagecoach Theaters CIA, that's Comedic Improvisational Association Memorial Day Telethon that we ran this past Monday. Went on for about an hour and a half. It was our first ever web show. So that being said, there were a couple technical problems at the very beginning, but nevertheless, we hope that everybody who did tune in had just as much of a blast watching it as we had performing it for y'all. And that being said, we are working on some new stuff, so be sure to stay tuned for what may be coming your way. Of course, you can stay tuned via way of the Stagecoach Theater website. We do thank you for your continued support at this time. Once again, our website address is www. Excuse me, there is no www. It's stagecoachtc.com. That is Stagecoach, T as in Tom, C as in Coach.com. And of course, you can follow us on our Facebook page, which is under Stagecoach Theater Company. And just in case, I'm still not sure if there are like multiple Stagecoach Theater Companies like worldwide. So just look for the Stagecoach Theater Company located in Ashburn, Virginia. Hit that blue thumb, give us a like, and make sure you're following us to make sure that you're staying up to date on all the latest Stagecoach Theater happenings. And let's go ahead and get on down to the brass tacks of the 4 movies that your boy has reviewed for y'all for this week's episode of The Real Rush right here on YouTube. The movie that I want to kick things off here with is the latest film from director Anisha Ganatra, who also was at the helm of such films as Chutney Popcorn, as well as I think it was last year's, Late Night with Emma Thompson and Mindy Kaling. And this was actually, the trailer for this movie was actually one of the very last ones that I saw in theaters before we went to lockdown mode. I actually saw this about a week before all that went down. I saw the trailer for this just before Burden in March, and the name of this movie is The High Note. So, as I'm sure you could assume, this was slated to have a theatrical release, but due to obvious reasons, we got it through Prime Video Cinema, streaming instead. And let's break down what The High Note's all about. So The High Note tells the tale of a pretty young lady named Maggie, played by Dakota Johnson. She works as an assistant for legendary singer Grace Davis, played by Tracy Ellis Ross. And it follows them as they both deal with the pressures of where they are in not only life, but in their business worlds as well, versus where they actually want to be in their careers. Hence, for Maggie, she longs to be a music producer, while Grace, she's been longing to make new music, despite pressures from her manager, played by Ice Cube, as well as other top-level music people and entertainment executives and such, to keep touring and releasing live and remixed versions of her classic and old hits. And this follows them both as they both, want to reach for that high note in their career. There you go. That's how the name of the movie applies to what's going on in the movie, aside from just the musical aspect here. And wow, it's heartwarming, and it's a soulful tale of not only following your dreams, but making them happen too. Dakota Johnson and Tracy Ellis Ross do have quite the on-screen chemistry. And as somebody who's trying to make it in the entertainment world myself, I saw myself in both their characters, as well as the character played by the one and only Mr. Kelvin Harrison Jr., who I've been stating for years and years and years now. Matter of fact, I've stated a couple times over on The Real Rush on YouTube. That's a boy that you got to keep on your radar. Let's get to Kelvin here in a second. But before I get to that, since we have Tracy Ellis Ross playing that of a legendary singer, just like her real life mama, Miss the wonderful and beautiful and glorious and once again legendary Miss Diana Ross, I wonder just how much of Diana's inspiration we got in Tracy's performance. Regardless of whether or not, she looked to her mom for any suggestions or anything, Tracy does a fantastic job in the high note. Now let's go back to Mr. Kelvin Harrison Jr. Further proving to be the man to watch for. Plus, it was really good to see him really shine in a protagonistic role. We haven't gotten him in a straight up good guy role, at least not in any other movies that I've seen him in over the last couple years, minus It Comes at Night. So it's really been since It Comes at Night that we got to see him in a really good guy role. So we got to really see him shine. I think that this should be the role that actually, really does get him on the map and get him more notice. So still, we're still backing you, bro. And of course, this being a movie about music, the original music that was written and performed in this movie it's bumping, y'all. It's bumping. Your head will bob and your toes will tap without you even knowing it. Now I know I got some soul in my body, and when I was going into this movie watching it on Friday night, once again due to the things that had been going on, going into the movie I wasn't feeling a lot. But then the music started going and I found myself doing this, and my soul started to feel good. So this is a movie, and that's what soul is all about, y'all. Where your body just starts moving to the music without you even knowing it. Everybody got some type of soul, and this movie proved it, I think, or I believe I should say. So overall, the high note, it is pretty good. It does have a few laugh out loud moments and even a few teary-eyed moments as well, but it's definitely worth the cinema rental price. $20, only a few dollars more than you would have normally spent to see it in the theater. Plus, for that price, you get this, at least on Amazon Prime Video, the rental period is for 48 hours once you start watching it. And this is definitely worth that price for the replay value that you can get within that 48-hour range. I might watch this again here in a little bit, so I don't have to go back watching the news here in a little bit. Oh, and also to point out that, in the supporting cast, we also got Eddie Izzard, we got Bill Pullman up in the joint, we even got Diplo up in it making a cameo. So, The High Note. Find it on any of the streaming services. Like I mentioned, it's playing on Amazon Prime Video in their Prime Video Cinema section. Spend that $20, rent The High Note, and enjoy yourself. It's a good warming movie, and that's something that I know I've been saying that throughout this whole outbreak, that we need positivity and more warmth. But given the last couple days, we really need that, y'all. So The High Note, check it out, and I think you'll enjoy it. Moving right along to what's next on this episode's Real Rush Tickets. We're gonna tackle a movie here that I was actually gonna check out a couple weeks ago, but the Real Rush card got a little bit too filled up, so we ended up saving it for this week, for lack of a better term. And man, just like The High Note, I needed this. I actually followed up The High Note with this one. And the movie that I am talking about here right now is called Guns Akimbo. Guns Akimbo follows mild-mannered video game developer Miles, played by Daniel Radcliffe. Yes, Harry Potter, who's forced to compete in the illegal yet wildly and widely popular internet streamed game of death called Schism to save his ex-girlfriend from the clutches of the game's evil creator. And fuck, man, like I just stated a couple moments ago, I needed this shit. Now, regardless of what's been happening over the last couple days, I think I would have gotten a kick out of this movie regardless, because not only am I a huge movie buff, but as I stated a couple of times in a couple movie reviews, as I'm sure I've stated at least, that I'm a huge gamer. So that being said, gamers, behold to this movie. It is high-powered action from head to toe, and all set to one badass shoot-'em-up soundtrack. And so that being said, if you loved movies such as like Gamer, Crank, even Crank 2, High Voltage, Scott Pilgrim, Upgrade, hell, even throw Baby Driver in there, then this shit is for you. Radcliffe and Samara Weaving. Samara Weaving is also in it as well, from Ready or Not. Radcliffe and Weaving kick so much ass. And if you haven't seen Radcliffe in a non-Harry Potter role, just know that this is far, far from the Harry Potter territory. And you got Ned Dennehy up in it as the villain. And that man is primo. Perfect as the over-the-top, campy antagonist in this joint. And I bet that, I know, as a matter of fact, that this would have looked and sounded epic on the silver screen in a theater setting. Watched it here on the Rushtron right after The High Note. And it was bumping, y'all. It was bumping. So this is no doubt a must-find for your boy on Blu-ray, or even if they got a 4K release of the joint, then I will be getting this shit. But yo, Guns Akimbo, all over the place, and it's a good all over the place. It's a good, just rattle your brain, video game type, all out, bludgeon, shoot 'em up, and have yourself a blast while watching this kind of movie. It's nothing to, take like highly serious or anything. So it's a good, disconnect your brain and just kick back and have fun. So Guns Akimbo. I found this for rent, $5, Amazon Prime Video. So wherever you can find it to either rent, or as a matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and say, go ahead and buy this joint if you can. So Guns Akimbo. Check that shit out, y'all. Next up on this episode's Real Rush Tickets. A little bit of absurdity here. that I want to touch base on. The name of this next movie here is called Butt Boy. Yeah, Butt Boy. And I actually stumbled across this in Amazon Prime Video's new release section. I had not heard of this movie until I stumbled upon their new release movie section. And I'm glad I did. Let's get down to what Butt Boy is all about. So, Butt Boy, excuse me, Butt Boy follows a hard-nosed, alcoholic LA detective named Russell, who ends up joining AA, and he has reason to believe that his sponsored, mild-mannered IT rep, Chip, is involved in some local abduction cases. But even furthermore, that the missing people in question have actually been disappearing up Chip's butt. Yeah, exactly. Like just as I jumped off this review with, that shit sounds absurd to the max, right? And no pun intended with what I'm about to say here, or maybe pun totally intended. But holy shit, this movie was awesome. And maybe it's, once again, it's me coming out of current events and coming out of like a social media funk. But once again, this movie is awesome. It's surprisingly suspenseful and thrilling with top-notch deadpan humor, especially given that of the absurd plot, which by itself just sounds of the utmost ridiculousness. But they somehow took that type of outrageous, for lack of a better term, and pun once again totally intended, toilet plot and toilet humor, and produced one well executed thriller comedy complete with like the 80s throwback audiovisual aesthetic, though it does take place in current times, and complete with the action movie cliches such as the burnt out drunk detective, and even more to follow, but I don't want to give that away. Now, movies like this, the comedy, given that I guess this would qualify as like that of a dark comedy, the comedy usually comes first before the movie does a complete 180 and smacks you in the face with the seriousness. Yeah, that's right, I added another syllable to that shit. But the formula is pulled off in reverse, and an excellent job in doing so. Now, given the fact that, if you were to read the plot of this on Amazon Prime, 9 times out of 10, your average viewer, they're gonna flip right past it. And even just given the title of this movie, they're gonna be like, okay, that looks and sounds stupid as shit. Flip, let's see what else they have to offer. Don't do that. Don't do that, y'all. You will be missing out on something original, something unique, and once again, just something totally awesome. I will go ahead and say, though, it's probably best not to eat while watching this movie. And if you're going to, at least go ahead and get it out of the way, like, early on in the movie. Because, given the fact that we're talking about things being, disappearing up some dude's ass, there are some definite gross out points in the movie. Or if that's your type of thing, go for it. Go for your mega bucket of popcorn at home and eat throughout the entire movie, and go ahead and challenge yourself to see if you can make it through without just a little bit in the back of your throat there. Now, Prime has this rated. It doesn't have an average rating, or a normal rating, I should say. It has it rated as 16 plus, as if it's like for like young adults and whatnot. But this is definitely for the more mature audiences. Now, that's not because of the fact that it may or may not be too gross for that of younger audiences, but I just feel that adults will vibe or quote unquote get it more. And the only way that you can really see what it is that I'm talking about here is if you go ahead and rent or even buy, stream, what have you. But boy, Amazon Prime Video, I believe it was like $4, maybe $5, but totally worth it. Hell, I would have gone as far to go ahead and seen this in the theater. Well, obviously I would have seen it in the theater if it was on the theater card. But even down to like some of the, if anybody's ever worked in like a corporate office environment, it totally nails some of the cheesy factors from such an environment in that movie. And that's all I'm going to say without giving too much away. But seriously, y'all, Butt Boy, check it out where you can find it. And once again, disconnect your brain and enjoy yourself. Last but most certainly not least on this episode's Real Rush Ticket is a documentary that I found on Netflix. I don't think it's necessarily like brand new. I think it came out sometime last year, but given the nature of the documentary, just the synopsis, the little description on Netflix alone, it spoke to me personally. So the last movie that we're reviewing right here, right now for y'all in this episode of Real Rush is called Cracked Up, the Darrell Hammond story. And this has the Saturday Night Live star intimately sharing the details of how childhood trauma led to his mental illness that he didn't even know that he was really suffering from until well into his adult life, and how he sought help for it before it was too late, plus how he found solace in the comedic impersonations that he ultimately became so famous and well known for. And this is a documentary worth multiple ovations. It's not too heavy given the matter of the subject at hand. However, it is just heavy enough to make you feel for him, as well as to look within yourself to relate if anyone does find themselves dealing with any type of like similar situations as an adult that you may be trying to cope with. As I stated, the description alone from the movie was something that it touched me. And after viewing it, I can relate to some of the things that Darrell Hammond touched on in this documentary, and I totally commend Mr. Hammond for having the guts, for lack of a better term, to come out and tell his story. Because all it takes is one person, to tell their story. Everybody thinks that, if they're going through something in life, that they're the only ones that may be going through it. And, once again, personally speaking, that there have been those times, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty more of those. But the good news here is that more times than not, when we're dealing with something and we do feel alone, is the fact that we're not alone in all this. And the reason that I say that I can definitely relate to this is for this. And this is actually how I'm about to segue into what's been going on over the last couple days. So it took, I noticed that something was definitely not on the up and up growing up, but it wasn't until I started reflecting on it once I got into my 20s and my 30s that I realized, like, holy shit, something was really wrong with what was going on here. And what I'm talking about here is when I went to my elementary school, kindergarten through 8th grade, it was a Catholic school. Now, this Catholic school was predominantly white, and the staff was predominantly female. You put those two ingredients together, and that made it, at times, extremely difficult for anybody of my tone and of my gender to deal with. Now, I'm not saying that it was all bad. Hell, some of my lifelong friends, I met at this place. I mean, the people that I grew up with at this school, y'all good folk. However, some of the staff and whatnot, that's a bit questionable. Now, not all of them were bad. I did have some really awesome teachers at this school. But there were a couple of teachers there that were, for lack of a better term, I guess you could say, ultra feminist. And it was clear that no matter what, a boy was always going to be in the wrong. No matter what. And if I came home and tried to convey that, the staff would make it that it was, so believable that no, it was your boy that was in the wrong, even though I saw what was going on with my own eyes, if that makes any sense. So not to go too terribly in depth into all the goings on at that particular school or whatnot, but with that being said, I've been outraged my entire life. I might not show it. As a matter of fact, I try not to, because I'm just a positive person by nature. And maybe it's because I dealt with shit like this growing up. I'm not the type of person, or at least I try not to be the type of person to not only, carry so many burdens with me, but to let it show, because that shit is contagious to a point. Not to mention, if you let burdens like that weigh you down for so long, it does have quite the effect on your mental and to your physical well-being. So that being said, after what's happened over the last couple of days, and having been outraged at stuff like this my entire life, I gotta say, honestly, when the news dropped about George Floyd earlier this week, and this is gonna sound bad, but just hang with me for a second. Initially, I wasn't outraged. And the reason that I say that is because when you've been outraged about something that is racially charged for so long, it almost becomes like second nature. You almost kind of get used to it. And that's not a good thing. That's not something that one should get used to. Now, I did have some type of feeling about it. If anything, it made me saddened seeing the images on the news. Even leading up until today, just a couple hours before I got ready, and this is actually what ultimately made me decide to come on camera and speak about this on this broadcast of The Real Rush here today. It's because it was just a couple hours ago that I was watching on CNN and watching the riots and the looting and all this even more senseless acts breaking out. That made me want to speak out about this. I mean, I just saw a couple hours ago the images in New York of you have You have peaceful protesting going on, but then you got the people being all but run the fuck over by the NYPD in their SUVs when they're actually trying to be peaceful and trying to speak up for what they believe in, trying to take action for what they believe in. And that's where the outrage began. But it wasn't until somebody said something a couple moments after that where it, like the SUV thing, that was the spark. But it wasn't until somebody said a certain quote a couple moments later that really just made the flames turn into fucking napalm in my soul. And what was said was that it was the murder of George Floyd that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, if you've been watching the news for the last 6-7 years, this ain't the first time that something like this has happened. So my question is, why did it take this to get people of all races and all backgrounds to finally stand up and say, holy shit, this is wrong, we have to do something about it? Why was this the straw that broke the camel's back? Because if you've been paying attention to the news and what's been going on in society over the last, especially just over the last 6-7 years, and once again, this is not the first time that anything like this has happened. This ain't nothing new. There have been plenty of straws that have come before this one. So this should not have been the straw that broke the camel's back. The straw that should have broken the fucking camel's back should have come with that of what happened in Ferguson a couple years ago, or what happened with Trayvon a couple years ago. So when that line got said, it resonated in my mind like, so you mean to tell me that all the straws up to this point have all been in vain? The outrage to me, and I'm just trying to stay as calm as I possibly can here, the outrage to me is, once again, why did it take until this to really put the nation on notice? If there have been so many instances like this, why has it been such a vicious cycle? And what makes me even further more angered is that I've seen, once again, over the last 6-7 years, as all this has been going on and playing out, and the reason that I say is that it's such a vicious cycle is because the way that I've seen it play out is it goes down like this. It's like a black man gets unjustly murdered by a white cop or person, what have you. People get outraged, as they should be. They go march, go protest, make a couple hashtags, posting shit all over social media, get t-shirts and shit made up, maybe even put a banner over their profile picture. But then after like 2 or 3 weeks, it just seems like all that's just forgotten about. And the issue never got resolved in the first place. The marches should have never stopped. The protests should have never stopped. Think about it. And I'm going to equate this to the whole coronavirus thing that we're dealing with here right now. If we had ignored all health official warnings, not stayed sheltered in place, not quarantining ourselves, not wearing masks out in public, not social distancing, there's a phenomenal chance that we would have all been infected and might not even be here, sitting here right now. But we banded together as a nation, followed the rules, and we're starting to see results from that. So let's flip back to this topic. We know that giving something, constant, not just attention, constant action garners results. We all know that. And we're all fearful that, now that things are starting to reopen, that if we go out way too soon, that there will be a second wave, possibly even more hardcore wave of the virus. So to avoid all that, we keep with the constant action. So let's get back to the matter of Floyd. Why is there a matter of Floyd if we know that it takes constant action to get something resolved, to start seeing results? If you started marching for Trayvon, if you started marching because of what happened in Ferguson, you should have never stopped. Martin Luther King didn't stop. Malcolm X didn't stop. They ultimately died fighting for what they believe in. Colin Kaepernick didn't stop. It cost him his job as one of the best quarterbacks in the last decade. He didn't give a fuck. He's still pressing on. So why couldn't everybody else take that as a clue? That you have to keep pressing on. When it's something that serious, you don't just hashtag it and shit and, post about it and basically be an armchair activist about it for a week or two. And then once the next hot topic comes along that has nothing to do with that, basically just makes you forget about what even fucking just happened until it happens again. That's not gonna resolve the issue. You have to constantly keep going. You have to keep constantly fighting for what you believe in if you want to see any type of results. You don't just let shit like that go. On something that is of lesser, I'll say lesser importance and as of lesser intensity, case in point. A couple of years ago, I was involved in an abusive relationship. I fought back, but ultimately, it took greater action than that. I packed my shit, I got out, and I had to block that person from my life. 5 years later, still blocked. Results. My last couple jobs, as a matter of fact, I saw that there were things happening that I was not morally okay with. I spoke up about them. They seemed to be falling. My words seemed to be falling on deaf ears. So it took more than words. It took action. Once again, I packed my shit and I got the fuck out. Permanent results. This should have never happened. It should have never gotten this far. This should have stopped 6, 7 years ago. It's almost as if people want to fight, but they're afraid to take an ass whooping. They're afraid they might get hit in the face. Well, guess what? Fights aren't pretty. You're gonna take a hit or two, more than likely. I've been in fights, both physical and mental. I've won some, I've lost some. But if you stop fighting, if you put your arms down and just let yourself get hit, you're gonna lose. And I feel like the message that we've been sending by not keeping up a constant fight is that of, well, what's gonna happen is we're gonna slay this black guy this week. Everybody's gonna get outraged about it for about 2 or 3 weeks. Then they'll forget about it. And then we're just gonna do it again. Wash, rinse, repeat. Because to them, they're getting the message that ultimately people as a whole don't have the action, not attention, the action span to get results for some shit like this. That's my 2 cents on the deal here, y'all. So, with what's going on now, and once again, it shouldn't have taken this long. Hopefully, I'm not a religious man, but I will pray on this. Hopefully, we will start to see results. And when I say action, I mean that as in peaceful action. Okay? In the 2 instances that I just brought up with my last relationship and the last couple jobs I had, the action that I took, those are peaceful actions. I didn't smack anybody, and I didn't go back into my office building and burn the motherfucker down. So to all the looters out there, we're taking this as an opportunity to just get some free shit, as Martin Lawrence once said. What do you stand to gain from all this, besides a new pair of Jordans? And maybe getting seen on the news running out the store with a big screen TV and some shit. How is that helping? It's not. It's not only making the problem worse, but it's making us look like, well, we don't know how to take peaceful action. And there is a peaceful way to do things. You don't have to break shit. You don't have to blow shit up, and you don't have to go stealing shit. You just don't. So I hope, along with the words that were spoken by Mr. Hammond in this documentary, in conjunction with what I just, for lack of a better term, ranted on here about, that it will encourage others to speak up and take the proper action as well. And just know that same as, banding together for the last couple weeks, months, trying to battle this outbreak, that we are not alone. We together as a one people can achieve positive results, y'all. Positive results. Permanent positive results. That, my friends, is a wrap for episode 88 of The Real Rush, right here on YouTube. Please stay tuned to episode 89 coming your way next week. What I'll have reviewed for you next week, I have absolutely no idea. But given the fact that it is our 89th episode, and given the current climate, I just may have to do a review of a classic movie that is even more significant today than it was when it came out back in '89. And of course I'm talking about Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. So I just may have that reviewed for y'all next week. That's all going to depend on what we see over the next couple of days. Hopefully we'll start to see some better things over the next couple of days, to where we won't have to, constantly beat that message, proverbially speaking, into your head on the proper way to take action. How it only takes one time. It should only take one time. Like Tony Montana said, one time, man. One time. Anywho, in the meantime, as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, just want to talk about things, please don't hesitate. Type something into the comment section of the very YouTube page where you're reviewing this week's episode right here, right now. To everybody who has subscribed to The Real Rush here on YouTube thus far, thank you for having done so. If you haven't done so, what you waiting for? You want to be the first to know when your boy drops a new episode? As I do state every week, please continue to spread the word of The Real Rush, but even more so this week, y'all. As much as I would like for y'all to, spread and share my program, I wish that we would spread love even more. So I'm finding that even more important than getting my name out there right now. But also don't forget that The Real Rush does have replay value, and not all episodes, for anybody who's been watching, are this heavy. So if you made it this far throughout this episode, or even tuned in at all, thank you for having done so. But any movie that you want to, know what your boy Dub thought about and get a good, honest to God opinion on, all you gotta do is go to the top of the YouTube page right here and search, and type in the YouTube search bar, in quotation marks, The Real Rush, followed by the name of the movie that you're looking to, get a review for. Hit enter, and then boom! Instant movie review on demand for you, because your boy J-Dub and The Real Rush got y'all covered for life, son. And as always, you can follow your boy on Instagram for my live movie check-ins and updates as they occur. And you can follow your boy at J-Dub Champion, hashtag The Real Rush. For The Real Rush, ladies and gents, I am your boy J-Dub. I want to thank y'all once again for tuning in to this episode of The Real Rush right here on YouTube. Remember, not just during the pandemic, and not just during times of civil unrest, but enjoy yourselves, take time to relax, chill out, but also take care of yourselves and of your fellow man and woman as well. Make sure that everybody close to you is staying as safe and as healthy as you possibly can be. Have fun, y'all. Love J-Dub. And we will see you next weekend. Peace out.